All right. So, good afternoon, everyone. And today we are going to talk about the diabetic emergencies. I'm endocrine consultant as well as the acute physician, work at the Farners General Hospital. So, should we start? So this is a scan code. You can scan, and could you please give me the teaching feedback at the end of the section? And I will give the scan code at the end also. So let's move to the case discussion. Sorry, I'm a little struggle with the mouse. Okay. This is a clinical case 1. A 28-year-old male, a known case of type 1 diabetes, diagnosed since the age of 20. He complained of vomiting, feeling unwell for 1 day. He vomited coffee ground color vomiters in emergency department. He has a poor control diabetes and has some abdominal pain and vomiting, feeling short of breath over the last 1 day. He denies other symptoms suspected for infection and open bowel 18 hours ago. So, due to the diabetic neuropathy, reduced sensation in the feet, he lives with mom, and unfortunately, his dad passed away approximately 1 month ago. That make he feeling down. So that's one of the trigger. On examination, the early warning score 3, respiratory rate 20, SpO2 100% on room air, blood pressure 147/89 with a heart rate of 130, no fever, retching, no pain on epigastrium, chest clear, no murmur. Investigation-wise, he has an OGD in 2020 and esophagitis, which show esophagitis. pH of 7.12. Actually, on admission, his pH was 7.0. Normal pH is 7.35 to 7.45. So he has acidosis. So bicarbonate normal range is 18 to 22. So bicarbonate 7.5 is acidosis. So since this is the bicarbonate is low, this is the metabolic acidosis with base excess of minus 19.9. Normal base excess is minus 2 to plus 2. So more towards to the left shift, to the more minus is acidosis. So here the metabolic acidosis, I would say the severe metabolic acidosis, because the pH less than 7.2, we can say as the severe, because there is a risk of cardiac arrest, where heart cannot pump in this acidic medium. So glucose 15, normal range of glucose is 5 to 12. So hyperglycemia. Ketone 7, normal ketone level is less than 0.5. So he fulfilled the criteria of the diabetic ketoacidosis. So hyperglycemia, ketosis, and metabolic acidosis. So he has a DKA. Other bloods are unremarkable. So this is a pH, 7.109, and carbon dioxide is low. So carbon dioxide low means that this acidosis is not because of carbon dioxide. This is not respiratory acidosis. So, as I have explained earlier, bicarbonate is very low, 6.2. So this is the metabolic acidosis with the severely left shift to the base excess minus 21. So this is a severe metabolic acidosis, pH less than 7.2. And glucose or lactate also high. Ketone 7. So diagnosis of DKA was made. All three components of the criteria should be present. Significant ketonemia above 3 millimole per liter. Nowadays we rarely use the urine ketone. So the blood glucose above 11 or non-diabetes mellitus. Blood glucose not absolutely necessary to be raised because there's another element of euglycemic ketoacidosis. In that situation, the glucose can be normal. Especially nowadays, those patients taking the SGLT2 inhibitor can present with euglycemic ketoacidosis. So the glucose is not absolute necessary criteria. Okay. And venous pH of less than 7.3 or bicarbonate less than 15 is the component for the metabolic acidosis element. So diagnosis was hematemesis around 500 ml of total OGD, previously 2020 esophagitis on rivaroxaban blood thinner for DVD in April 2022. DKA, type 1 diabetes, depression with recent bereavement. So diagnosis and issues are these things. So management is admit to the high dependency unit because they're on the ward level setting. Hourly monitoring of blood glucose is not possible due to the staffing. So hourly monitoring will need a higher level of care. And should be checked. Continued DKA protocol with fixed rate intravenous insulin infusion, FRIII. Continue the long-acting degludec 24 unit alongside with the fixed rate, because it is not a must that you can continue or you may withhold. But continuing the long-acting will smooth the blood glucose control, and which can prevent the crisis. For example, sometimes for the technical failure, no IV cannulation, sometimes the IV cannula issue, sometimes the fixed rate intravenous infusion is paused. In that situation, by giving the long-acting can prevent the crisis. So, change to the continuous insulin infusion of omeprazole infusion 8 mg per hour to suppress the gastrin and round the clock 24 hours for the gastric acid suppression for the hematemesis. OGD and IV metoclopramide as an antiemetic. So fixed rate, very long acting. So this is the AQL fixed rate DKA protocol we use in the hospital, just to follow the protocol. So fixed rate intravenous insulin infusion. Why we call the fixed rate is we fix the insulin rate according to the body weight. It is easy. For example, 60 kg equivalent to 6 units per hour. 70 kg, 7 units per hour. 90 kg, 9 units per hour. So that's the reason we call the fixed rate. We will never change the rate of insulin dose, regardless of the glucose level, until DKA fully resolved. DKA fully resolved means resolve metabolic acidosis, pH must be less than 7.3, resolve the ketonemia, ketone less than 0.5. Glucose is not a problem. Glucose, whatever glucose, as far as the acidosis and ketonemia resolve, we can change fixed rate to variable rate. So fixed rate is the name fixed rate is because of the we will not change the dose of insulin according to the body weight. So maximum fixed rate can be given is 15 units per hour. So including the intravenous insulin infusion, fluid management, this is the 0.9% sodium chloride, 1 liter in 1 hour, and second liter in another or 2 hour, and third liter in 2 hour, and 4 liter over 4 hour, fifth liter over 4 hour. So the to remember is the 1 liter in 1 hour, 1 liter in 2 hour or 2 times, 1 liter in 4 hour or 2 times, and 1 liter in 6 hour or 2 times. So this is the rate of IV fluid. So that need to go together with the potassium containing fluid, because the potassium cannot be given faster than 10 millimole per hour. The maximum rate of potassium can be given is 10 millimole per hour. So that's why the first fluid bag shouldn't contain the potassium, because it is the first fluid, 1 liter in 1 hour. So it must be the plain sodium chloride without potassium. But subsequent all the fluid, the potassium should be given together. So 10 millimole of potassium will increase the 0.1 millimole of blood potassium level. This information is very important. So 20 millimole, if we are giving 20 millimole, it will increase the blood potassium level by 0.2. All right. So this is the protocol. Actually, we have the protocol just to follow and fill out the form. So how much potassium should be given will guide by the blood potassium level. If blood potassium level is above 5.5, no potassium replacement. 3.5 to 5.5, 20 to 40 millimole per liter. And below 3.5, which will need the 40 millimole or the little high concentrated potassium. And we have the 50 millimole potassium and chloride back. But if we are giving more than the 40 millimole potassium chloride, which we call the high concentration potassium, should be given in the high dependency unit at least, preferably through the central venous line, because the potassium is a toxic to the tissues. Its extravasation happen. So preferably through the central line is better. So if the blood glucose less than 40 millimole per liter, we will not change the fixed rate. Don't reduce the insulin dose, because it is called the fixed rate. So what to do is we have to give together the 10% glucose alongside. So because of the patient is still in ketoacidosis, so we cannot change don't reduce the insulin dose, fixed rate, according to the body weight. But we have to make sure that fixed rate insulin infusion should go together with glucose parallelly. So, for example, in that case, the plain fluid or potassium containing fluid, 1 liter over 4 hour or 1 liter over 6 hour can be reduced slightly slower, because we are giving the additional 10% glucose, 200 ml per hour. So the other potassium containing normal saline drip can be reduced to compensate the additional glucose infusion. So these all will be written in the protocol. You just click and prescribe accordingly. So sodium bicarbonate. We rarely give the sodium bicarbonate in DKA. As far as we are managing fixed rate insulin infusion, and most of the case sodium bicarbonate is not required, not indicated. But in very severe DKA, not responding to the fixed rate intravenous insulin infusion, at least for 4 hours, we may consider sodium bicarbonate infusion. in severe metabolic acidosis like pH less than 7.2, there's a risk of cardiac arrest by the VDVF in acid medium. So in that case, to save the life of the patient, sometimes we may use sodium bicarbonate infusion. But again, this should be given in higher care setting, like the ITU or the HDU. So severe DKA definition for the higher level care is blood ketone more than 6 and bicarbonate less than 5 and pH less than 7.1 and hypokalemia less than 3.5 and GCS less than 12 or abnormal early warning score above 6, oxygen desaturation less than 92%, and systolic blood pressure less than 90. These are the indications for higher level care, tachycardia and anion gap greater than 16. So normal anion gap you can calculate from sodium plus potassium minus chloride plus bicarbonate. So serious complication may arise during the management of DKA, or hypo or hyperkalemia, hypoglycemia, cerebral edema, pulmonary edema, and acute respiratory distress syndrome. So other management, we may need to catheterize to measure the appropriate intake output. Consider nail by mouth, especially in patients with impaired GCS, because there's a risk of vomiting and aspiration, because the gastric modality is not really good in DKA, because the whole body is not functioning well. Antibiotic, if there are signs of infection suspected, and venous thromboembolism prevention with the low molecular weight heparin, rule out myocardial infarction, especially in elderly patients, by doing the troponin, ECG. Sometimes they may not complain of chest pain because also heart has an autonomic neuropathy, and neuropathic patient, they may not present with chest pain. Any questions regarding the case 1? Otherwise, we will continue to the case 2. Or we shall discuss at the end. Okay. So, clinical case 2. 65-year-old male, known type 2 diabetes, poor oral intake and low blood glucose level. So, he has a background of Parkinson's disease, insulin-dependent diabetes, and present with poor oral intake and increasing in frequency of tremors. He has a mild dry cough, no chest pain, no urinary symptoms or abdominal pain. Today, note that leaning toward the left side, lives with wife, walks with stick, but recently his mobility is poor. So, early warning score 1, respiratory rate 17, SpO2 100% on room air, blood pressure 106/53, heart rate 63. He was alert, no fever. He can drink and take tablet without choking, severe tremors, and district nurse used to come and inject insulin. CRP less than 5, glucose came in with hypoglycemia less than 3, so 2.3. After that, after giving the treatment, glucose better to 9.5. LFT normal, GFR 31, baseline was 60, but that was quite a while ago. High urea, sodium 138, normal, potassium 5, normal. Iron 0.9, and full blood count, no sign of infection, white cell 9.8, CRP less than 5. Hemoglobin A1C 44. So normal range is 48 for the diagnosis of diabetes. TSH mildly suppressed 0.35 with T4 slightly elevated 14.2, not significant, because TSH is not significant unless it is suppressed less than 0.1. Mild suppression can happen in the illness. It is called the non-thyroid illness. Any illness can cause the TSH can be suppressed. mild. So unless it is less than 0.1, it is not significant. So diagnosis and issues: hypoglycemia, insulin-dependent type 2 diabetes on insulin, on mixed insulin, Humulog mix 50-30. Humulog mix 50. The name is mix 50. Mix 50 means the long intermediate adding is 50% and the short adding 50%. In that insulin, the mix of the intermediate adding 50% and short adding 50%. Humulog 50. And you can have the Humulog 30 also. So Humulog 30 means the short adding 30% and long intermediate adding 70%. So Humulog mix 50, 30 unit in the morning and 12 unit evening meal, alongside with the metformin 500 milligram BD. Poor oral intake likely related to worsening Parkinson's disease with swallowing difficulties, AKI, and not coping at home. These are the diagnoses and issues. So management plan: withhold his usual Humulog mix 50 because they came in with hypoglycemia. So withhold the metformin because of the AKI, and change with the IV normal saline 1 liter 8 hourly. Since blood sugar getting higher now, 13.3 on 10% glucose infusion. So this is a case of hypoglycemia, another diabetic emergency. The first one is DKA. So recheck blood glucose 2 hours after the bedtime, after changing to IV normal saline. So inpatient glucose target is 5 to 12. So since his glucose rose up to 13.3, out of range of 5 to 12, we changed to the non-glucose containing fluid, normal saline. So blood glucose monitoring 3 times pre-meal and bedtime. After that, keep in view restudying the Humulin I. Humulin I is the intermediate acting alone without short acting component. So Humulog mix 50 has the intermediate acting plus short acting. So because of the hypoglycemia risk, plan to change to the insulin regime without containing short acting. So 6 units once daily. If blood glucose above 15 during the weekend club review. So diabetes specialist nurse review on Monday and trend the renal profile. If not improving, for ultrasound KUB to rule out any obstructive uropathy or any intrarenal problem. And social input and neurology or the Parkinson nurse review for worsening Parkinson. So mild hypoglycemia means that they can manage by themselves to resolve hypoglycemia. So mild hypoglycemia, the sugary drinks can be given, baby jelly can be given if they are not choking. Otherwise, we can give the 10% glucose infusion, 100 ml per hour. Severe, moderate to severe means that they need someone to help to resolve the hypoglycemia. So, as mentioned earlier, the blood glucose less than 4 is a significant hypoglycemia. Our inpatient blood glucose target is 5 to 12. So these are the blood glucose treatment. We have the dextrose tablet, sugary drinks can be given, easily digestible, high glycemic index carbohydrate can be given. So slow acting are the biscuit, toast bread. These are slow acting. The glass of milk with sugar also can be given. So severe hypoglycemia, if severe, unconscious or faint or very drowsy or aggressive. So ABCDE approach, and we should stop any insulin and IV glucose over 50 minutes 20% glucose 100 ml or 10% glucose 150 ml, 50% glucose 30 ml. So the higher the concentration of glucose, there's a risk of tissue necrosis if extravasation. So please make sure that you need to choose the big vein with the proper cannulation. And once the blood glucose above 4, follow up treatment as described before. So we are going to the clinical case 3. Shall we come back later? I have teaching. Yeah. I will finish at 1 p.m.
Okay.
All right. Another patient is an 83-year-old lady with type 2 diabetes, found on the floor, priority call, history from paramedics, collapse. History of present illness, the carers could not get a response from the patient this morning and eventually opened the door and then collapsed to the floor. No loss of consciousness, no vomiting, no chest pain. Examination, temperature getting better, 36.3. She came in initially with hypothermia, temperature of 33.8. Heart rate slightly bradycardia, 45. Blood pressure 162 by 52. 100% on room air, respiratory rate 26. A lot improved, speaking well, improved, not confused now. She said she didn't miss Degludec and Novorapid. Degludec is the long-acting. Degludec can last for 36 hours. And Novorapid is a short-acting. She didn't miss, she said. Very dry, dehydrated. Blanket electronic warmer because of the hypothermia. Chest clear, no murmur, and no abdominal pain. Investigations. I will read out for you. pH is 7.025. So, acidosis. Normal pH is 7.3 to 7.4. 7.025. So, carbon dioxide low. So, this is not respiratory acidosis. So, if carbon dioxide high, then there is a respiratory acidosis. Carbon dioxide low, it must be metabolic acidosis. So, bicarbonate level was 8.8, so less than 15. So, as well as base excess is shift to the left too much, minus 21. Normal range, minus 2 to plus 2. So, this patient with a glucose of 47. So, this patient has DKA as well as HHS. So ketone 3.7. So this patient fulfills the criteria of DKA, the hyperglycemia 47, ketosis, ketone of 3.7, even though it is not so bad, and acidosis, pH of 7.0, as well as very high glucose. We suspect for the hyperglycemic hyperosmolar syndrome, HHS. So how to calculate the plasma osmolarity is we have to multiply sodium by 2 plus potassium plus urea and glucose. So the initial glucose was 47, urea 15, potassium 5, and 139 twice. So 2 sodium plus glucose plus urea. In the older days, the potassium was included. Now they remove the potassium in the calculation. So her osmolarity calculator was 326. So HHS cutoff is 320. Normal osmolarity is 300. So she has a hyperglycemia hyperosmolar stage, HHS. She has a DKA as well as HHS. DKA plus HHS. So management. So the management is, since she has a DKA, we just follow the DKA protocol. with a fixed rate and intravenous insulin infusion. But the only difference from DKA and HHS is actually HHS will respond very quick, and insulin requirement will not be as high as DKA. So they can easily go into hypo. So the watchful observation is very important. And another salient point is they will probably need more fluid than DKA. So once DKA resolve, that means that pH above 7.3, ketone less than 0.5, we can change fixed rate to variable rate. So the difference between the fixed rate and variable rate is, as I explained earlier, fixed rate will never change regardless of whatever the glucose level until pH above 7.3 and ketone above less than 0.5. And by variable rate, we will adjust the rate of insulin according to the glucose. For example, glucose level 12 to 15, rate of insulin is 1 unit per hour, something like that. That is a graph. You don't need to learn by heart. You will be given the protocol. So prognosis is higher mortality than DKA. HHS, they have the higher mortality and more thromboembolic risks. So we need to, and also the more infection risks. So we need to be, especially the DKA, HHS more likely to happen in the elderly, frail patients. So no wonder they have the higher mortality. All right, this is the end of the section. I hope you all enjoy. And this is the feedback scan link. And could you please provide the feedback for my appraiser and